And welcome to this week's Time Out. I'm Becky Goldsmith with pieceofcake.com. You can see across the bottom, and some of you who've been watching, you might notice I have new glasses this week, and I'm trying to decide where that they're progressives. I'm trying to decide if where the line is exactly right. So if you see me moving my head around a little bit, I'm trying to find the right focal point. Okay, so hello and welcome again to this week. You see behind me the birds in Toyland, and there's actually two quilts there. They're almost the same but different, and they are the quilts I've been working on for, months and months and months. They're secret projects, so I could only show you a little bit. Now, let me go here to this. So, birds in Toyland, under other circumstances, would be a secret project for a whole other year, because in the publishing world, the way it works is you get everything made, you get everything written, you get it all together, and then you wait a year for everything to happen with the publisher before the book comes out. But this is a quilt that I always intended to teach online first, and then the book would come later. And that is exactly what's going to happen. So, starting late yesterday, very early this morning, the Birds in Toyland class went live on the platform I teach on, which is Creative Spark. And I think Lorna will give you a link. I put the link in the newsletter that came out last night, except it was kind of the wrong link. And so I sent a second newsletter, so some of you got it twice. The class is now on, let's see here. Well, I'll show you later. There's a link to Creative Spark. It's Creative Spark at ctpub.com, I think. I'll have to look. But I've got the link for you a little later. When you go to the Creative Spark homepage, you can go to all of the teachers that teach there. And when you navigate to my page, I think I've got 6 classes up now. And this is now on that page as one of them. It wasn't earlier today, but it is now. Okay, so these are really cute quilts. These are really cute quilts. And I decided this week that what I wanted to do, and you notice my live me just went sideways, and there's images, that way, that are going to be showing up next to me as I talk to you now. So that is a better full-on picture of Birds in Toyland. And it's the first of the quilts I made, and I want to acknowledge right here that this pattern was not my idea. Many of you know Linda Jenkins. She's my retired business partner. It was her idea to make a very cute Christmas quilt that had birds, and I was slow to think that was a good idea, but once I came on board, I thought, oh yeah, that's pretty fun. So I've had fun making them. My first thought was, this is wool applique all the way. I was in line to do wool applique, and that quilt that you see there is almost all wool on cotton. Linda wanted to have more needle turn applique in her quilt, which was great because you can combine wool and needle turn together. You can do all one, you can do all the other. It really doesn't matter. But for the purposes of the class, since Linda was combining wool and I'll be showing her quilt, I had to include needle turn applique in the class. So what was going to be a wool applique class got bigger and more interesting. That also meant that I needed to make a second quilt. Let's see here if I can make this go forward. Oh, there we go. There it is. There's the link to CTPub, to creativespark.ctpub.com. And if that's the link you go to, that's where you navigate down to the author pages, and that's where you find me. Oh. And there's the landing page. That's where you sign up. I guess I don't have the picture of my other quilt there quite yet. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this that way so that you can see the other quilt I made that's mostly needle turn applique. All right, so I'm going to forget that part now that you've seen it. I think I do have a bigger picture of that quilt farther down in here. So the thing about signing up for the class is that this class that has both wool and needle turn hand applique techniques plus embellishing ideas, because this quilt is so much fun to embellish. It's so much fun to add sequins and beads and ribbons and, man, you name it, you can add it. There's some embroidery. Yeah, it's great fun to play with. Now, the class is going to be taught with live sessions. So if you sign up for the class, for that Birds in Toyland class, it includes 5, what will probably be about an hour-long sessions, in addition to the patterns, because this is the only place these patterns will be available until about this time next year. That's just it. And can I just say here that if you sign up for the course, these are not patterns to share online or with your friends. The book's not out yet. I know you'll be very tempted, but I am pleading with everyone who takes the course to please not do that, because it's copyrighted material. And, you know, to be perfectly blunt, this is how I make my living. And Linda would really appreciate it too if you wait, you know, until the book comes out to, well, even then, you shouldn't share patterns that are copyrighted online or with your friends. But, what was I going to say? Oh, but we do want you to share, even now, those of you who sign up for the class, you can share pictures of what you make online on social media. I'm giving everybody who signs up hashtags to use so we can see and compare. It'll be fun. All right, so I sidetracked. Because the class has live sessions, there's limited enrollment, because when we get together on Zoom, there's only so many little heads that fit on the screen, and even then when they spill over to 2 screens, there's a limit. So this class, this first group, may be filling up as I speak to you here. It's filling up pretty quick. I will offer another session and probably another session after that, group of 5 sessions. Sign up. If you get on there and it's already full, there will be a link to sign up for the waiting list. Those of you who sign up, you'll get first shot at signing up for the next class. So do that, please. All right. So there's that. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. And amazingly enough, it might be filling up sooner, because those who sign up before, I think it's May 15th, get a better price on the class, which is always nice. Okay, so there we are. We're back to the picture. So that's the picture of the quilt behind me that is mostly wool, and you can kind of see the glittery parts. There's lots of sequins and beads. And I want to say, well, here, let me show you the next one. So that's the quilt that you can't see all of. It is not all the way quilted yet, and I haven't embellished it because you don't add hard embellishments until after the quilt is quilted and bound, because those sequin and beads, they get in your way whether you're hand quilting or machine quilting. So when you look at this, those blocks, the applique blocks, are 8 inches square. I give the dimensions, the percentage that you use if you want to blow it up to 10 inches. But always know that any applique block can be enlarged more or reduced, for that matter, depending on what it is you want to do with it and on your skill level. And before I forget, I want to mention that some of these pieces do have little tiny parts, like those bird beaks. They'll get your attention. For the most part, I did those with felted wool because they're much easier to handle. You can embroider them, you can do all kinds of things. But I remember when my mother made Welcome to the North Pole. I'll show you that a little later. Not my mom's quilt, but Welcome to the North Pole. And she was 83, and she was about to be having double vision, and she had arthritis. She had issues. Mom had issues with sewing little bitty pieces. And you know, when she would get to something she couldn't quite handle exactly the real way, Mom would make up whatever it was she wanted to do. So if there was a point she couldn't quite sew with applique, she would take embroidery floss and just, make it be pointy however she could. When you, as an individual, are looking at these blocks and thinking, oh, I'd love to make them, but they might be too hard for me. These are any blocks. Remember that sewing is fun, applique is fun, and you can be way creative. You do not have to follow the rules, and there are no quilt police that are going to come after you if you decide to, make it a little easier sometimes. Okay, so there's both of those quilts. The thing I wanted to talk to you about in particular today are different ways you can use these patterns and also other patterns. So the bigger quilt that Linda made, her first idea was not to do it on light backgrounds, but darker backgrounds. So she's in the process of quilting her quilt right now. And I think the color's a little blown out in this photo, but the those white squares are not yellow. They're actually really white. And this is a really fun quilt. So the blocks are pretty on both light and dark, and being able to see them both, I think for most of us, makes it easier to imagine it in other ways that, how if it was just shown in light, it can be very difficult to see it in dark, and vice versa. So both in the book and in the pattern that goes, the instructions that go with the class, there's line art that helps you see this better. Okay, now I have to find the little thing to click. There it is. Okay. My friend Polly Stevenson made this quilt. She's a good friend, and early in the process of making my own quilt, I showed her the blocks, and she said she would really like to make one. And so I shared the blocks with her, and I hadn't appliqued anything much yet, and she imagined the birds and the trees mostly in Liberty of London fabrics, which is really nice. And she also decided she didn't want to do the pieced block settings. She liked it much better with simpler sashing. Again, these are ideas to use to alter a pattern that you like, that you may not want to make exactly the way it is shown in a book. So this is Polly's interpretation. And you know what? While it would make a great wall quilt, and I don't know when she might hang it on the wall, her intention is to use it as a table topper. It's going to be really cute there. Linda is working on those little wool pieces that you see on the left. She had intended to make them as pillows, but they're going to be small wall quilts, she's decided. So that is wool fabric in the background and some wool fabric on the top, but also it looks like flannels and woven cottons on there, which is really cute. And where in my quilt, let me move my head a little bit the correct way. You see the Merry Christmas behind me live. I never know which way to point my finger when I'm doing this. That I did with a rope of sequins. It's like sequins on the string. I thought that was great fun. I couched it down. Linda really liked her Merry Christmases where she put them down. She liked doing them in rickrack, which is a nice and easy way to do it as well. In my other quilt, the one you can't see because it's over there, I did cutaway applique with the Merry Christmas. So there's a variety of options for doing that. Okay, so where else? What other creative ideas? Because as an author, I will often say to people, well, and you can use these blocks in a variety of ways, and then I never quite explain where. So because we're live, I figured, well, I'm going to have to say something more than just, yeah, you can put them other places. So I got online yesterday and the day before, because when I stopped to think about all the creative places you could put these patterns, yeah, I had to work at it a little bit. There are so many creative places you can put these things. So I got to thinking about the Christmas parties that I go to, maybe not last year, but I hope to go again this year. And we host a Christmas party every year, and it can be great fun to wear a Christmas sweatshirt or a Christmas sweater. And I got to thinking, how fun would it be to take one of those designs and put it on a Christmas sweatshirt? Now, if you look really, really close, you'll see that I did a pretty so-so job of photoshopping the snowman onto the sweatshirt, but you get the idea, And here's the thing. You could do this with fused fabric very easily, whether it was wool or cotton. You could stitch to the outside on the machine. You can use rickrack. You can use sequins. You could, if you were really motivated, use fabric paint and paint it. I don't even know that you'd have to be all that really motivated. You could definitely do it. It'd be pretty cute. And then pillows. So a lot of these patterns would be really great on long, skinny pillows. And I got to tell you, those birds, that might be my most favorite block in the whole quilt. There is just something about those silly birds. I like them a lot. And the idea to stretch the bottom branch out across the bottom of a long pillow like that is just super cute. So again, my photoshopping is pretty marginal, but it's just to give you the idea of what it could look like. And my friend Sophie was saying it could be really fun to take this same idea and do a table runner. So imagine a long table runner where you take the baseline, what is basically a branch in all of the blocks, almost all the blocks, there's like a baseline, and stretch that long down a table runner, and then take different motifs and enlarge or reduce and fit them together, more than one motif together long on a table runner. I think that makes sense. I hope it does. Okay, then I got to thinking about placemats, because at Christmas, these would make really nice placemats. And then you have to think about, okay, how much effort do you want to put in a placemat that might get spilled on and stained? I am unsure about that myself. So there are a couple of different ways I personally would use these on placemats. Number one, it would be fun if you have children in your life to take the basic pattern, and maybe white out where all the numbers are on the pattern, and copy it onto big paper, right? You could even place the pattern underneath the paper and trace it off with pencil and then color it. Wouldn't it be fun? And wouldn't it even be more fun to do that with children? To let the kids color them and use them and let them write things on. I just think that would be too much fun. And if it turned out to be that much fun, you could get the either, what was I thinking? Oh, the vinyl stuff comes on a roll. I use it all the time. It's like laminate, but it's not. It's like the shelf liner, but not. You know what I mean? And I have lost the word. It's all the way gone. But you know what I mean. It's not iron-onable. You open it up, you peel it, you stick it over the paper, and then you've got a nicer plastic coating over the top of the paper. Wouldn't that be fun? And if you do it on both sides, then it would be less likely if somebody spilled their milk to ruin the underside. You could probably laminate them in a laminator too. Take them to a place that's got a big laminator. Or if you did something similar, yeah, Lorna's saying laminating sheets, but I'm thinking laminating sheets are smaller. They're 8.5 by 11. I'm talking about the bigger stuff. It's gone. Somebody will tell me later what that is. You know, it's, I want to say it begins with a C, but darned if I can remember. Anyway, the other thing is, if you took this same idea and did it, contact paper, that's it. Okay, thank you, whoever that was. It might have been Lorna. If you did something similar with fabric and you fused fabric on top of a base fabric and then did the iron-on heat and bond, it would be similar. It would be about the same. So that's a placemat idea. That's a couple of placemat ideas. And you could get really fancy and do for real applique and sew around it and quilt it and bind the edges and then not let anybody actually use them. There's that. Okay, so placemats. Placemats are fun. Then I got to thinking, and I thought this because I was getting on Pinterest looking for interesting ideas, DIY Christmas ideas. And Christmas cards came up. And I have not given up on Christmas card sending. And every year it gets harder for me to find a card that seems personal enough to me, that doesn't look like something that's just been printed and it says Merry Christmas and you sign your name and send it off. I got to thinking that it could be really fun to use one or more of these designs on Christmas cards. And there are ways you could do it, either with more or less effort. So if you took cardstock, and can I just say, the English paper piecing cardstock is a really good weight for this, and it's a little bit smooth. It would be easy to write on, and it's white. But there are other cardstocks you could use, colorful cardstocks. Cut it to the size you want, fold it, crease it real good with a creaser. And then either fuse fabric, and I would fuse the fabric before I creased it, either cut the shapes out and fuse fabric, or use decorative papers, decorative scrapbooking papers. And I've got a slide that says, let's see here if it's the next one. Yep, there it is. So this is just simple. I went online and I was pretending like I was shopping for crafting papers. There are so many cute Christmassy papers out there. And so you could make Christmas cards, and it wouldn't even have to be this. It could be any one of the designs, or a simple design, or even just the ornament. But the idea that you make your own is really pretty sweet, don't you think? And again, you could let the kids color them, depending on the number of cards you have to send. The other thing could be, if you had a master card that they colored, and then you made copies of that to actually send out, that could be good too. So Christmas cards are kind of high on my list as a thing to consider for this year. I think this would be fun. And again, there's the Christmas papers. Oh, I know what I was going to say. With the paper placemats, you could also use the papers on a paper background to make placemats. And then I don't know why. I know what this was. I think I got to thinking about a book that Linda and I wrote several years ago. I'm pretty sure it was Curl Up Quilts. And it had children's things in it. And it was at that time that I had been making painted floor cloths. And we included that as a project in the book. And at about the same time, I remember there was another book, I think it was by a C&T author, that came out about painted floor cloths. And I had forgotten about it for years, but suddenly I thought of it yesterday. And I Googled, and Martha Stewart came up first. And so that you see there is a painted floor cloth. And she goes into all these ideas about how you paint floor cloths. The instructions are not hard. And so you could take any of these Christmas designs and blow it up and transfer the design to canvas and make a painted floor cloth. You could make a painted wall quilt. Shoot, you could make painted placemats, now that I think about it, because you use acrylic paints, I'm pretty sure. Maybe things like Ceramcoat or the Liquitex. You can also use real floor paint. You can go if you want to get that exciting about it. And you cover it with polyurethane, if I'm remembering correctly, to stiffen it. And there's probably more to it, but Martha will tell you all about it. They're fun. These are fun. And it would be a nice project for Christmas, a nice decorative project, and something that you won't see all over the place. And then you can embroider the designs. Now, I did not embroider these designs. I'm still working on quilting the other quilt. This is a quilt from our book, Applique Delights. And it is a book that's got 100 different applique designs. And one of the suggestions we had for those blocks was to treat the line art as an embroidery design. And that would work really well for these Christmas quilts, these Christmas blocks. It could be really cute. And any of you guys who are doing a lot of the heavier embroidery, for instance, with Sue Spargo, and you've got all this stuff, all these different embroidery stitches in your hip pocket, you've got lots of threads, this could be a really fun way to deal with, to make these blocks. Now, these classes, they're going to fill up. It's limited enrollment. The book's not going to be out for a year. But I've given you these great ideas for projects you can do. Where else might you look for patterns to do them with? Welcome to the North Pole is good, because all of the suggestions I've given you here really would work with any applique pattern. So this is Christmassy. It's really cute. And, over the years, people have used these patterns, broken the blocks up, and they've made tree skirts, and they've made all kinds of stuff. They've gone to town and made all kinds of stuff. Excuse me. So this is another design source if you're not getting birds in Toyland yet, but some of these ideas sound interesting. Then there's the hand sewing book, and I wanted to throw this out there again because of the idea of how you take a pattern that you like a lot. Like, you may love this quilt as I do and want to make it exactly as is. But once you own it, and say even once you make it, there are really good individual blocks inside there that you can take apart and combine in different ways. So very few suggestions here. I always imagined that people would pick one or more of the English paper pieced blocks. So I'll back up. So any of those pieced blocks around the center medallion grouped together would make a really great quilt. So I stopped at 4 blocks, but you could make it much bigger. And actually, one of the classes I teach on Creative Spark uses one of the blocks from hand sewing combined with that center medallion. And I made a Christmas quilt, but you can color this in a wide variety of ways, and there's suggestions somewhere on the class page. It's definitely part of the class, and I think even on the intro part of the class. So there's a lot of different ways you can color this, but it's that same idea. Even I will take blocks that might have been one place and I combine them in a new and different way someplace else. And this is something else from hand sewing. The basket blocks are 4-inch and the center medallion is 16-inch. And I just photoshopped these together to see what it would look like, and it's pretty cute. But you could repeat the center medallion and make a bigger quilt. You could set it together with pieced blocks. You could take those little baskets and make them bigger or smaller and put lots of them together. So a lot of different ways to use the patterns just in that one book. And then think about all the books you have and all the blocks you've made over the years and all the quilts you've made. And go back and imagine the ones you liked best. And maybe you don't want to make that quilt again, but you would like to pull elements from it to use in different ways. There's all kinds of ideas. Okay, ooh, I think, let's see, is that the end of that? Yes, that's the end of that. So the idea is to definitely be creative. And I hope I've given you lots of good ideas. Oh, I know, there were two other things I wanted to say. Okay, one is that not everybody wants to make another Christmas quilt. I perfectly understand that. I had been imagining if I was going to take these blocks, what else I might do with them. And if you made the Christmas balls flowers, like daisies, just simple daisies, and you changed up some of these as flowers, and maybe, oh, I'm off the camera. Hello. And maybe instead of letting them hang from above, you let them grow from below. And if you did the same kind of thing on all of the other blocks, if you switch it up to not Christmas, but other simple motifs, it could be pretty fun. And then Sophie was saying, those Christmas hats could just as easily be any party hat. And I got to thinking, I don't know why I got to thinking this, but these birds, my favorite birds right there, if you colored it in red, white, and blue, and you straighten up the stem and have a little flag on it, that could be the cutest 4th of July block ever. It's just saying. So, you can think outside the box in so many ways. Let's see. Is that it? I think that's it. So, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today. I hope I get to see you in class. Those of you who don't take the class, I hope you are already excited and thinking about getting Birds in Toyland next year, because next year will come before we know it. If you have ideas of things you might like me to talk about on a next time out, let me know. I think it was Mike or Michael emailed me today, and he wanted to know about how to build a design wall. And you know what? I think that's what I'm going to talk about next week, because that's really important, and it's fun. I use mine all the time. And I believe that's it. I went almost 3 minutes over my 30 minutes, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I appreciate you taking your time to spend half an hour with me today. Until next week, may you have many happy stitches. Thanks for watching.